Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action, and today we've got another very special battle from Ristademos' recent coffee cup tournament. I actually got that wrong last time, and he chastised me rightly in the comments for it. It's in fact the coffee cup, not the salad cup. I apologize. But here we are with Rightist versus, I forget his opponents, I think it's Soder, I want to say, with a very special Empire army versus the Vampire Coast. So, for those of you who weren't aware, in this particular tournament, there was a slight change from the usual unit restriction. Most games, especially towards the higher levels of the tournament, you still saw relatively balanced armies, but in this particular battle, Rightist went with 10 State Troop Swordsmen. So, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this unit for a minute, I guess, since there are actually 10 of them on the field. State Troop Swordsmen are actually one of the most cost-effective low-tier troops in the game, in my opinion, in many situations, especially against the Vampire Coast, who tend not to bring too many large units, and those large units you can take down with combined arms. He's got some crossbowmen, Empire Knights as well, Bright Wizard, and, of course, Boris up in the air. For the Vampire Coast, we've got some Fellbats, front line of zombie pirate deckhand mobs, including the Tide of Skilled, no halberds except out on the flanks and in the back, so yeah, halberds. We've also got the Night Terrors, very interesting pick, not the biggest fan of these guys, but they're pretty decent. Gunnery mobs just with handguns, a couple units of Sirens, we've got the Lamprey's Revenge, let's see, a Count Nocti Boy on foot. Pretty decent Vampire Coast army, very good, nice wide build, and you can see Nocti Boy already pulling up those summons in the back line. These deckhand mobs going to get into the crossbowmen here, and we are fighting on the, what is this, Black Pyramid of Arcan. Very cool looking map, very cinematic. You can see the Vampire Coast very nicely came out of the ruins there. They didn't artillery spam and like camp up in these ruins, which, you know, you totally could, like park Queen Bess back behind, but anyway, that aside, you can see the state troops here holding the line, preparing to engage. We've got more Mournguls over here. The Empire Knights actually charging into the Mournguls is actually one of the better ways of dealing with them. Mournguls don't do the best against shock cavalry charges because of their relatively low melee defense and armor. The charge bonus and the, you know, shock mechanics will do a lot of damage to the Mournguls. You can see they're already suffering pretty badly, crumbling away, so very well done. The Lamprey's Revenge, though, are getting in the back line here, just wrecking through these crossbowmen. And the Hunger here, the Regiment of Renown Ghouls. These guys, not being charged by Empire Knights, are going to do much better in this center pocket and just mow through these state troops. We've also got plenty of Sirens in here as well. Boris going to dive in here and try and stabilize things. He'll do okay against the Mournguls, but he's going to have to be careful not to get bogged down. Rightist also following up very nicely with these Empire Knights. You can see he's got almost a full surround here, just about, except that this little pocket here is routing off, but this other side here is now engaging in sort of a second wave. Noctilus's bombardment's coming down. I think it's targeted on those crossbowmen, I want to say, but meanwhile, like I said, this second wave is kind of engaging here. You can see State Troop Swordsmen again moving up very cost-effectively, fighting these zombies in the pits, so we'll kind of admire these low-tier troops as they duke it out in the pits. Yeah, Swordsmen haven't even lost, just barely lost one model there against these deckhand mobs. And again, their combat stats, which matter a lot more in Total War Warhammer 2, melee attack and defense, also known as combat stats, matter a lot more than in previous games. Those of you guys who have watched my channel for a long time know I'm constantly talking about this, but it bears reminding, and this engagement right here is a perfect showcase of that. These State Troop Swordsmen, they have excellent combat stats, 32 and 32 in terms of attack and defense, 28 weapon strength. They can outduel most low-tier troops in the game relatively cost-effectively. Yeah, going to do very well in this situation here. You can see these Empire Knights have just about squeaked through. Are they going to land a rear charge or go after those gunners? Looks like they're actually going to be rear charging these deckhands, just trying to crumble them away potentially. Oh, nope, going after the gunners in the back now, along with Boris. Meanwhile, State Troop Swordsmen over here being surrounded. They're up against Sirens, so probably will be terrified away eventually, but they are holding the line for the... Oh, nope, never mind. They terrified. Over here, they're also being terrified away, so, you know, the swordsman giveth, the swordsman taketh away, and these swordsmen here being routed off, you know, very appropriately. But, again, the heavy cavalry charges are, while they won't do a lot against Lamprey's Revenge, are another way of dealing with ethereal units as well. So the Mournghouls and the Sirens both relatively vulnerable to the Empire Knights, so if you can secure them from the guns and the halberds, they will be able to do some good work in this matchup. Meanwhile, Boris and these Empire Knights just diving through here. You can see the halberds that we're trying to secure are just getting dragged down by masses of swordsmen. The flank over here was won very decisively, and those swordsmen are pushing through very nicely. Meanwhile, Boris goes ahead and dives in here. And yeah, it looks like a flaming sword of ruin, so those Sirens are going to get cut through with proper magic damage now, and that should be the end of them there. Lore of Fire, definitely pretty decent in this matchup, especially if you bring Boris. You don't necessarily have to worry about healing your Lord, and with a super wide build like this, there's not really any high value targets worth healing necessarily. Blobs of Empire Knights maybe, but the Flaming Sword of Ruin, Cascading Fire Cloak, and Fireball, very good loadout for this Empire caster here, and you can see the balance power slowly grinding in the Empire's favor as just the low tier troops of the Empire are beating the low tier troops of the Vampire Coast, and that's more or less where the engagement's being decided to a degree. I mean, obviously these Empire Knights, very on point here, the fact that they're still alive and haven't got bogged down in halberds or the Lamprey's Revenge. They have taken some losses, but able to do a lot of damage to key targets, including these Night Terrors here. Boris going to come down and support as well, just knocks one down there, delivering the righteous justice of the Empire, and Ulrich, of course. I believe Boris is an Ulrich worshipper, but how about that shot right there with the pyramid in the background? You know that Count Noctilus is helping Arcan with some nefarious scheme here, and Arcan's doing the ritual, Noctilus is holding the line, and it's not going particularly well for Noctilus, so maybe I'll have to figure out a time we can do a follow-up battle with Rightist, where I'll play Arcan the Black on this map. He can take this Empire army, and, we'll have some fun with it, but as it is right now, the bounce power is still reasonably close, actually. This center Death Star is going to be pretty hard to take down, especially the Lamprey's Revenge, because there's not a lot of AP on this Empire army. There's not really any armor sundering either, so maybe if these crossbowmen regroup, Boris, maybe with the Cascading Fire Cloak, could take down a few models, but again, it's going to be risky, especially with the support of these Sirens, with their -5 melee attack bound ability, or sorry, -9 melee attack bound ability, which is very nice. And the Terror, of course, meaning that a lot of the Tattered Empire support, are going to have a hard time holding its leadership together, but as it is right now, things are in the favor of the Empire, at least on the balance of power, but we'll see. We'll see how this goes. The Noctilus definitely has a nice little Death Star here, so we'll fast forward a little bit as the Death Star kind of rolls around, and Rightist is going to try and use his missile troops as much as possible to, best effect. Unfortunately, the Lamprey's Revenge are just shooting their shotguns at the crossbowmen. It's not actually doing that much damage, but the Empire Knights trying to break the charge here. Unfortunately, the crossbowmen just get terrified. These troops all faster than the Empire infantry here, but yeah. Boris does manage to draw out that bombardment, which doesn't do a whole lot of damage to him. He's going to have a hard time dueling Noctilus on foot, obviously because of Noctilus' great melee defense, his anti-large AP, so the Vampire Coast definitely not up a creek without a paddle yet. They're still, fully afloat. I'm sorry, guys. Enough boat puns. We'll go ahead and pop it back into full time here as we get a little bit of a pitched engagement here with Boris, supported by the Empire Knights trying to snipe out a few targets here. Looks like a summon also being pulled up from Noctilus. Was there a Flaming Sword of Ruin? Looks like, I'm not sure. Perhaps the Fire Wizard's certainly in the area. Those Sirens took a lot of damage, so I'd imagine that was probably it. Invocation of Nehek also healing up those troops as well, so we'll continue to fast forward as kind of go towards the end game here. Vampire forces kind of being drawn into a corner a little bit here. They do chase those crossbowmen off the edge of the map. Then it's going to be the final engagement here, so we'll go ahead and soak up the juicy cinematics of the Lamprey's Revenge and their zombies just absolutely exhausted, just crawling, literally crawling up the hill here. The Empire troops up on the high ground. Going to go ahead and countercharge downhill, and oh man, crabs are going to be brutal. But Boris coming in here. Of course, his AP will definitely help, and the fire damage as well will help a little bit against the Lamprey's Revenge. They do have a standard regeneration trait, which makes them weak to fire, obviously. So that Flaming Sword of Ruin with the Kindle Flame, up to 47% weakness to fire. All these troops doing fire damage are going to be able to get in here and do quite a bit, especially the Empire Knights while their charge bonus is up, because the Lamprey's Revenge bracing bonus is not active. They do have charge defense against all, but their bracing bonus currently is probably broken considering they're all spread out and fighting all sort of hodgepodge here, but the Syrene's still alive for the time being. You can see the Swordsman having a hard time staying in the fight, but as long as Boris can get some support here while he tries to work on these Lamprey's Revenge, start to tip the balance power more and more, maybe crumble away on these Syrenes. If the Syrenes can go, I think that's the last terror-causing unit here, so should be able to secure the leadership a little bit better, but Sigmar's Sons, of course, will be able to hold the line here a bit, but yeah, not sure. Looks like he's maybe trying to get a full surround. Yeah, not actually sure. Okay, there we go. Not sure where those Empire troops were going, but nonetheless, the last stand of the Empire here amidst the ruins, and Boris, of course. Oh man, there we go. Lancing down that massive enemy crab. Totally historically accurate, by the way. Not really, but for those of you who know, you know. Yeah, at this point the Syrenes are gone, Lamprey's Revenge are crumbling, so it's just going to be a matter of time before Noctilus himself gives up the fight with this just wave of Empire State troops still fighting on, some of them down to only 19 soldiers left, but still just continuing to fight till the very, very end here. And yeah, Swordsman definitely very cost effective, obviously in ladder, and you know, in a typical tournament format you would never see this many Empire Swordsmen in a given battle, and I don't know that it would necessarily work that well against other factions. Maybe against the Skaven this would actually work okay if you took Volkmar instead of Boris, but you would maybe have issues with Doom Wheels, potentially. But Swordsmen, again, very cost-effective low-tier troops, able to win the day here with the leadership of Boris, the support of the Empire Knights, and the Crossbowmen, of course, but yeah, 10 Empire Swordsmen, including the Sigmar's Sons. Can't discount them. They are mixed in here as well, so... Oh man, that spin attack, though. There he goes. Noctilus down, Boris wins the day, and that'll be game. So very well played to both players. Oh, it was a Rame. I apologize, Rame. Yeah. Very, very fun battle. And just in terms of the army breakdown here, obviously the Swordsmen racking up tons of kills in certain aspects, others of them getting raffle-stomped by monsters, but that kind of just shows the duality of Swordsmen. They're very cost-effective for what they do, but they're not gonna win, you know, outright in a lot of situations. Certainly they are pretty squishy and easily countered by certain things, but they did very well here. 175 on the Sigmar Sons especially, not bad at all. Crossbowmen kind of got compromised a little bit, but were very key in doing some leadership damage in the late game. Empire Knights also, 120, 105, and 71. This one kind of got dragged down a little bit, but still very cost effective. 63 kills on Boris himself, not too bad. For the coast here, the Syrenes did quite a bit of damage, and I do like the pick. Obviously, Empire does have access to plenty of magic damage, but still, Syrenes can be a very good option here if your opponent doesn't bring the right tools. Lamprey's Revenge, almost always going to be a good pick, 194 kills, and I'm not the biggest fan of Mournguls in this matchup. This lower tier one, the regular Mourngull, you can see why. It just got hard countered by Empire Knights, which is a brutal trade that's very cost inefficient. The Knight Terrors did a little bit better, but still just weren't able to really sustain like they needed to. So yeah, fun battle nonetheless. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.